Hello guys, welcome to this video. My name is Rukshan, and in this video we're going to create a complete chat system with an API and user authentication processes. So in this video we're going to use Django for the backend framework and React for the frontend framework. And the languages we're going to use Python for the backend and JavaScript, HTML, CSS for the frontend. And we're going to use Bootstrap library to do styling of our pages, and Visual Studio is the IDE that I'm using in this video. Make sure that you have installed Node.js and Python on your machine. I will put some videos in the description box to learn how to install Node.js and Python on your machine. So let's start creating the projects, and let's start creating our project. So first let's create the front-end project. To do that, make sure that you install Visual Studio also. After you install all the things that I've told you, Python, Node.js, Visual Studio Code, you need to open Visual Studio Code and click on File, and then go to Open Folder. A dialog box that you can choose a folder where you're gonna store two projects, front-end project and the back-end project. Select that folder and click on click on Open Folder, and then you will get that folder open in Visual Studio Code. So once you've done that, you will see that folder is open in this Explorer tab. So as you can see, I have named my folder as Chat System, so I have opened that in Visual Studio Code. And then you need to right click on this area and then click on Review in File Explorer. It will open that folder in File Explorer. So I'm going to double click on this Chat System folder to get into that directory, and then click on this address bar, and then we need to type cmd and hit enter. Then that folder will open up in cmd. Alright, to create the front-end project we use npm command. To use that command you need to install Node.js on your machine. So let me write the command and I will explain what that command does. Alright, now this is the command. We use npm create to create the project, and then we need to specify the build tool and its version. So we're going to use Vite build tool with the latest version of it, and then the last one I have written is our project name. So the project name is frontend. So when we hit enter, it will give us some options to select. So let's wait some time. Alright, now we got those. It asks us to select a framework for this project. So as I've told you, we're gonna use React as the front-end framework. So you can use up and down arrow keys to select the option that you want. So I'm going to use React in this project, and then it will ask us to select a variant. So I'm going to use JavaScript as the front end language. Okay, we can ignore this, it's not a problem. So it asks us to, once the project finished creating, it asks us to enter these three commands. So the first command says we need to enter into the project directory. As you can remember, we have named our project as frontend, so we need to get into that directory. So let's do that. So I'm going to cd into frontend project directory. Now as you can see here, we are in that folder. Then the second command, what second command does is it installs all the necessary dependencies for our project. So let's go ahead and run that one to install all the dependencies, so we will be able to run the project without any error. So let's wait some time. Alright, now so the dependencies for our front-end project are installed. Now if you go to Visual Studio Code, and you will see our front-end project directory. So we are in the chat system folder, which is gonna contain two projects that we are creating, front-end project and the back-end project. You can see the front-end project directory. um, there are some dependencies that we want to install instead of the libraries that we have installed right now to work with our front-end project. So we are gonna use some libraries to do styling and to use some components that the developers are already created. So let's install those libraries that we're gonna use in our front-end project. So to install those libraries, I write one command to install all the libraries that I need, and or you can use npm install command for each library that you want to install. So if you have 10 libraries, you can write 10 commands if you want, but there's a shortest way that we can use npm install command to install many libraries as we want. So let me show you the libraries that I'm going to install right now. So we're gonna install Axios, and then we're gonna install React router, and then we're gonna install React router DOM, and then we're gonna install React icons, which gives us some icons to use in our project. So the next one that we need to use is React Bootstrap. It actually gives some components that we can use in our project. And also I'm going to install Bootstrap framework, because we're going to use some Bootstrap classes to do styling. We will write some pure CSS code, but Bootstrap framework contains many classes already created, and we can use those classes to style our components in our page, in the pages that we are building. So let's once you specify all the libraries that you want to install using this command, you need to hit enter, and it will install all the dependencies that you have listed in this command. So let's wait some time until it completes installing. Alright, all the necessary dependencies for our front-end project are installed right now, so we can start actually writing code to create the pages. So I'm not gonna create the backend project for now, because let's stick with the front-end project. Once we're done with all pages, then let's see how we can create our backend project and install all the necessary dependencies for our backend project. So let's first focus on our front-end project. Let's go ahead and write some code to create our pages and style them. Alright, now I'm going to head over to my Visual Studio Code IDE, and I expand my front-end project folder, and in there you will see a folder named source. So you need to expand that too, and you'll see some files already created in there: app.css, app.jsx, and index.css. You need to delete all those 3 files because we're not going to use them. We're going to create our own files. So I press and hold Ctrl and click on those 3 files. Make sure you have only selected these 3 files. You don't have selected any other file, only these 3. And I'm gonna press the delete button on the keyboard. Yeah, I need to move them to recycle bin, and it start deleting the files. So right now we have deleted those. Then you need to open this main.jsx file, and you need to remove these 2 import statements: import index.css, app from app.jsx. You need to remove those 2 import statements, and also you need to remove this app component because we're gonna use our own components. What I'm gonna do is I need to right click on this source folder and click on new folder to create a new folder. So I'm gonna name it as pages. Now this pages folder is gonna contain all the pages that we need in our front-end project, and I'm going to create another folder named components, and this folder is gonna contain all the components that we create in our front-end project. So what I'm going to do now is, as you can remember, we have installed some libraries, necessary dependencies for our front-end project. So I'm going to import some components from one of the libraries that we have installed. So the components that I'm going to import are these: browser, router, and routes and root. these are the three components that I'm going to import in here, and then I'm going to say import those three components from React router DOM. Once we done that, we can use those three components within this strict mode tags. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use browser router first. So I'm gonna type that here, browser router, and then I'm going to close that and get into this browser router tags, and in there I'm going to write routes, and within that I'm going to say route, and I'm going to close that. I will put that as a self-closing tag. Alright, now in the route tag, route component, we need to provide two attributes. So first attribute that we are going to use is path. I'm going to set that to empty string for now, and then the second one is element. So I'm going to place some empty tags here. Let's talk about this path attribute. So path attribute tells what's the URL that we want to visit in order to show this element. So I'm going to say if we visit home page, I mean the root of the URL without no ending, then we need to return this component. So for example, I will return some text here, hello world, or just I say home page. Alright, so when we visit this URL, it returns this text. So let me show you how we can create another one which contains contact URL pattern, and then I will say if we visit this URL from the browser should show us this component. Alright, now let's go ahead and test it. Oh, we need to actually close this one. Alright, now let's go ahead and test it. To test it, we need to actually get into the frontend directory. As you can see here, we are in the frontend project directory, and then we need to run npm run dev. What this command does is it actually runs the development server, so we can test our project in the browser. So once you run that command, it will give you this address. This is the address that you want to visit using your browser in order to see the pages that we create in our frontend project. So I'm going to copy that, or you can press Ctrl and click on that link, and it will open up in the web browser. So this is the address, this is like the domain name you have, but on the actual domain it's our loopback address, localhost, and the port on which the server is running. So when it points, now we get, as you can see here, we get home page text. That's because when we visit this URL with no other ending like contact us, it points to this. This is the root of the URLs. So it doesn't contain any ending like this contact does. So if we visit contact/contact, we append that part to the URL in here, and then we hit enter. Then you will see we get contact us text, because we have told if we visit this URL, it should show us this text that we are using in here. Now instead of returning text, showing text, we can use our own components that we built. So we're gonna build our own components later. So I just put these two text to show you how this works. So I'm gonna clear those up, and I will put some empty tags right now. Alright, now we're gonna create our own component. So let's head over to our pages folder, and let's create our home page. To do that, you need to click on this new file, and you need to name the file like this, home.jsx. So the JSX is the extension of the file. As you can remember, when we create our project, we used React as a framework, and we used JavaScript as the language that we're going to use in our front end project. If you use TypeScript, you need to type TSX, but we're using JavaScript here. Because of that, we need to put JSX. So now we have created our home.jsx. Even if that file is in under the pages directory, we call it as a component. So we are gonna create our home component. To do that, we need to write export default home. You can create many components in one JSX or TSX file, but if that file only contains one component, you can actually make it as default export. So type export default and the component name. So I'm gonna name my component as home because it's the home page, or you can name it as home page. And then I'm going to open and close the parentheses, and I will open and close curly braces. Within those curly braces, you need to type return and open and close brackets, and in those parentheses you need to type the HTML code that you want to return, that you want to show when the user use these components in somewhere in the project source code. One wrong thing that I've done is I missed this function keyword. So this component should be export default function and component name, open and close the parentheses, open and close the curly braces, and then use return keyword and open and close the parentheses. Within those parentheses, you need to type the HTML code that you want to render, that you want to show to the user when the user use this component in somewhere else in the code. So let me put some text, home page. Now when we use this component, this text should be visible in the browser. So to do that, I'm going to say when the user visits this URL, instead of returning this, I need to show our home page component. So when you type and hit enter, it will import that automatically from here. Otherwise, you need to type these import statements to import that. If you have created home.jsx file in the pages folder, you need to exactly type this. You don't need to put .jsx extension here. And we import home page from our home, and then we render that in here. So when we visit that URL, instead of contact, let's move to the home page. You see that component renders home page text on the screen. Alright, now let's start getting the content for our home page to create some sections and style those. So to get the text content that we need to put in our home page, we're gonna use ChatGPT to generate a text content for us. So we can ask ChatGPT, can you give me the text content to put in the home page of a website chat platform website. So I'm going to hit enter, and it will give us text content that we need to put in our home page. So it gives the content with the sections that we need to create actually. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the content that I've got, and I'm going to paste that in here. Alright, now we're going to use some components that we get from the install dependencies to make these sections and style those. So let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to import two components right now. Import row and column from React Bootstrap. If you've used Bootstrap previously, you use row and call class names in your HTML code, but when we use React Bootstrap library, when we use React Bootstrap framework, it gives those components, it gives those class names as components. So instead of using class names to create rows and columns, we can use these components that they have created. And also, if you need to create a card, for example, in Bootstrap, you use class names, right? Instead of using that, this React Bootstrap framework gives us the card as the component that we can use. So it's pretty easy than using Bootstrap. You can make your code clean a little bit. But anyway, we have to use Bootstrap classes at some point, but for this we don't need to use Bootstrap row and column classes because we can use the components that they have created. So we don't need to create div tags and specify the class names that we want. We can use components directly. So what I'm going to do here, as you can remember, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 sections. Let's see. Yeah, we got 4 sections. We got 4 sections in our home page. So I'm going to use row tag, and I'm going to duplicate that many times so I get 4 rows. So one row contains 1 section. Alright, so I'm going to separate that, and then I'm going to create the first section. So I place 1 column here. So one thing that I want to tell you, if you need to use a row inside a row tag, you cannot use that row directly like this. What you want to do is you need to wrap that row inside a column tag like this. Then you can use 2 rows like this. But if you need to use 1 more column inside a column tag, it's not, we can do that, but we don't do that because as I remember, when I use those like that, it messes up the content alignment, as I can remember. So in one project I've used that, but it messes up the content. So I decided to not to use that again, and I just organize my content like this. If you need to put 1 more column inside a column, you need to add 1 row and then put the second column that you want, like this. So you will understand how to use that when we create many pages for this project. So right now I'm saying I'm gonna use row component for each section, and then I have added 1 column, 1 column to place the content. So in here, this attribute, SM attribute, specify how many columns that this content should take in smaller screen sizes. So there are many sizes, many breakpoints. We call them as breakpoints. So the smallest breakpoints that we have is XS. It stands for extra small, and the second one we have SM, which stands for small, and the third one we have MD, which is medium, and the other one we have LG, which stands for large, and then we have extra large, and after that we have extra large. So these are the breakpoints that we can use. These are different screen sizes. So extra small refers to extra small screen sizes. So now in here I have told, let me clear that, and in the XS breakpoint I'll specify 5. So what this does is when you use this column tag in this row, it divides that row into 12 columns and get only 5 columns to render the content in extra smaller screen sizes. So that's what it does. So I'm gonna say in extra small screen sizes it should take 12 columns to render the content, and as the screen size becomes larger, so I start getting 8 columns to render the content in medium screen sizes. So in extra larger screen sizes, I'm gonna say it should only take 6 columns to render the content. So we can omit this SM screen size, SM breakpoints, because we have said take 12 columns to render the content in extra small screen sizes. So then we say in the medium screen sizes it should only take 8 columns to render the content. So when we remove this, when we don't specify any value to this sm tag, it's gonna take the number of columns that we have specified in the previous breakpoint. The previous breakpoint to sm breakpoint is xs, so xs contains 12 columns. Now we don't specify any value for sm breakpoint. Now it's gonna take whatever number we have put in xs breakpoint. So in this case 12 columns. Even the screen size is a smaller screen size, it's gonna take 12 columns because we have said in the extra smaller screen sizes we need to take 12 columns. But if you specify a value here like 10 to smaller screen sizes, it start taking 12 columns and it takes 10. So I think you got what I said. So that's how it works, and I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to copy the text content for the first section, and I'm going to paste that in that column tag. Alright, so I'm going to make them indented properly. Alright, now we have more 3 sections, so I'm going to create those 3 sections. Go ahead and copy the section text content that you got and put them like this. And once you've done that, come back to the video and let's start styling those. Alright guys, I have put all the section content into different sections as we did with our first section. You can see the new content, new source code right now. So let's head over to our page to see how it looks like. This is how it looks like. No any styling. It's in simpler words, it's ugly. So let's make it more beautiful by applying Bootstrap CSS classes, right? So let's head over to our Visual Studio Code IDE, and in there you will see, if you expand the front-end project directory, you will see a file named index.html. What you want to do is you need to open that, and before you're using rows and columns in your project, you need to make sure that you have added a Bootstrap class named container fluid. So we don't need to use class name like we did in actually we haven't done that yet. But if you need to imagine, if you need to specify any, if you need to put any class name, or if you need to add any class name to a div tag or any tag, that you can't use class attribute like this. What you want to do, because this is in React, you need to use class name. Like you do with HTML, you cannot use class attribute. So we have to use class name attribute in order to add more CSS classes to this tag. So what we do in index.html file is we add, because this is pure HTML, this is not React, this is HTML. So what you can do is you can add this container fluid class, which is introduced in Bootstrap using this class attribute. So what this does is this is like a container for our web page. So this container gets entire width of the screen. I mean, if you maximize the web browser, this container gets the entire width of the web browser to render its components. So in this container we use rows and columns. So whatever we put inside these files, these components, they get added within this div tag. Right? So make sure that you add this class to this div tag. Once you add this class, you can use Bootstrap rows and columns correctly with no any problems in the positioning of the components. Alright, so now we have added that. That's the only thing that you need to add in the index.html file. So let's close that. Make sure you add that, and then let's start styling the sections in the home page. So as you can see, our page, you can see all the sections are not separated. So let's separate them a little bit. That means let's give some spacing let's give some gap from the top and the bottom of each section. So this is the first section. As you can see, I have separated those two tags. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some bootstrap classes. So what I can do is I can use class name to add classes to this component, bootstrap CSS classes. So I cannot use class in here, it should be class name. Then I'm gonna say I need to get some padding from top and bottom, so it's located in the y-axis. So we can say padding y-axis, padding in the y-axis should be you can choose any size you want, but I go for 5 because it has more spacing, more padding than the 4. It's not visible. Let's see. All right, the thing that we need to do is we need to actually import bootstrap CSS file in main.jsx file. That's why you can see we have added a bootstrap class in here, but it's not get applied to the first section that we have created. In order to make these bootstrap classes work, you need to go to main.jsx file and you need to make sure that you import bootstrap.css file in your main.jsx file. The way that we do that is we need to type import, and within the double quotes we need to say bootstrap /dest /css /bootstrap.css. So this is how we import that, and make sure that you write this line as I've typed with no any typos in that. So let's head over to our page and let's wait until it gets refreshed. When you make a change to any file that you have in your source code, this page gets refreshed automatically, so you don't need to worry about refreshing manually, it just automatically does for you. Alright, so as you can see here, we got some space from the top and the bottom, so it's a padding. As you decrease the size in here, let me show you. As you decrease the number in here, the padding, the amount of padding we get gets more smaller. So let me show you that by decreasing the size, decreasing the number that we have here. So we say padding y3. You can see that the padding, the amount of padding we have got reduced. So I'm going to make it 5 because I don't need that much smaller padding, and I need some more padding, like padding y5. So I'm gonna do that to other sections. Then we have padding from top and bottom for each section. So what I'm gonna do now, I add class name py5, not pt. pt means padding from top, so I'm gonna say padding from padding in the y-axis. So that means that adds padding from the top and the bottom. So I'm gonna do that to other sections. Sorry for the background noise, guys. So I'm going to do that to the last section we have. If you need an image for the background of the section, you can ask ChatGPT to generate an image for you. Like you say the name of the section and say you need a background image for that, then it will generate a background image for you. So I have generated one background image to this hero section, that means the first section in the home page. I have put that image into this assets directory. Whatever you use, I mean something like the image, something like an image, an audio file, or any document like PDF and text document, you need to add those documents to this assets directory, because this is the directory which is gonna hold resources that we use in your project. So let's this is the image. Let me show you that. It's generated by ChatGPT. So let me show you the image that I'm using for the hero section. You can see that this is the image that I'm going to use for that, and let's go ahead and apply that image as the background of the first section. So what I'm going to do is I need to import the image like this to be usable in the inner code that we have written. So I'm going to say hero section image. I want to import that from assets directory. You need to provide the relative path to that image in here, and I'm going to actually right click on the image to copy the entire file name. So I'm gonna copy that, and I'm gonna paste that name with the extension here. Don't forget to put the extension here, because otherwise the project will not be able to find the image. So we have imported that image and we have stored in this, and then we can use this hero section image in a place where we need to import our image. So if I say, so this is the first section, I mean the hero section, and I'm gonna write some inline CSS for that. So you need to make sure that you write it like this. So you need to type the style attribute and then open and close the curly braces, and within those curly braces you need to place your CSS rules as a JavaScript object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up another curly brace and close it. Then I hit enter to make sure that each property, each CSS rule comes in a new line. And I'm going to say the background image should be, so I'm going to say put it like this. In this way I can put any value stored in JavaScript variable within this string, so I can include it. So this one, hero section image, contains the path to the image, so I can use that path when I use this section, hero section image, in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that hero section image, then this variable gets replaced with the path of the image. So I'm going to say background. Now we have set the background, and I need to say background repeat, no repeat. What this does is, if the background image is smaller to fill the content, to fit the content, the web browser is gonna replace the same image until it fills the entire area of the container. So what I'm going to do is I need to say no repeat needed, and I need to say background size, and the image should cover entire area of this section. So let's go ahead and open up the page. As you can see here, we have imported the image, but the hero section size, I mean the height of the hero section, is not enough. So let's increase the height of the hero section a little. What I can do is I can add more padding to this column, and it will expand like this. Or you can add some height, add some amount of height to this, like 400 pixels. You can see that. So I'll stick with the 400 pixels. So I'm going, no, this is fine. I'm gonna keep this, no need to change it. And height of the section is 400 pixels. And now the background image starts from here, 0 from the x-axis and 0 from the y-axis. So in order to push the image a little bit to the top, I need to say start rendering this image from minus 100 pixels. Then it will not start positioning this image from the 0 pixel in the y-axis. It will start positioning this image from minus 100 pixels in the y-axis. So let's go ahead and do it. What I'm gonna say is I'm gonna say background position y and minus 100 pixels. Alright, as you can see here right now, the image has moved a little bit to the top. So I'm going to increase that value a little more, like 200, minus 200 pixels. You can see image moves to the top. And if you need to move the image to the bottom, you need to give a positive value. If you need to move the image to the top, you need to give a negative value. Same applies for the x-axis. If you give a positive value to the background position x, it will start moving the image to the right side. So if you give a negative value, it will start moving the image to the left side. So that's how it works. Alright, now this is our first section. You cannot see the text because the background is darker, and text is also has a dark color. So what we can do is we can give a lighter color for the text. So let's go ahead and do it. So welcome to your platform name. So I'm going to give a name for my platform, like I'll simply say chat system. So this is the title. This is something like a heading, so we can do something like this. In HTML we have h tags, heading tags, with 6 different sizes. So the first one is the largest one, so I'm going to use that one, and I'm going to give a color to that text. That color is this light blue. Yeah, that would be nice, light blue. Let's see how it looks like. Need to be more light. I'm going to increase this one a little bit. Alright, that color is fine. Alright, let's apply the same color to the paragraph. After this heading, we have something like a subheading. So let's say it should be h3. So let's copy that. Let's move that into that h3 tags. Alright, this one is something like a paragraph, so I'm going to write that inside p tags. Alright, now we have wrapped that, and also need to give the same text color to that too. So I'm going to say, I'm going to copy that, then I can paste it in that tag. I'm going to copy this and paste it in here, then that will update the text color of that paragraph. Alright, now the thing that we need to do is we need to make this whole text content to the center. So as you can see here, we use 8 columns in medium screen sizes, and extra large screen sizes we use 6 columns. So the total columns that we have is 12. So you can see right now we haven't used total number of columns available in that row. So this takes only some portion of that row. What we can do here, if we add some CSS classes to the row that says push all the content in this row to the center horizontally, it will move this text section to the center of the screen or to the center of the section, right? So the thing that we are going to do, we need to add this class justify content center in the row. When we use the row component, that means row class name in Bootstrap, when we use that, the display property of that class is set to flex. So we have the ability to use justify content center CSS Bootstrap class because the display property is set to flex. And if we open up that one, now you can see the text content, that means the column that holds the text content, get aligned to the center horizontally. But there's one problem here. Even that content gets centered horizontally, the text also should get aligned to the center. What we can do here, we can add CSS classes to these h1 tag, h3 tag, and p tag to make the text align to the center. So what we can do, we need to add CSS class that we have something like text center. When we use this Bootstrap class, it aligns the text to the center. You can see that, and we need to add the same class to other 2 tags that we use in this column. So I'm going to copy that and add it to the h3, and I'm going to add it to this p tag too. You can see the content has aligned to the center, and I need some space between those 3 items: the heading, subheading, and the paragraph. Alright, what I've done here is I have added padding y with the size of 4. That means this class py-4 adds some padding to the top and the bottom of this subheading. So then we don't need to actually get some space, give some padding to the top of the paragraph, and we don't need to give some padding to the bottom of the main heading, welcome to chat system. So that's what this does. We get the second tag, and we add some padding. Then it will add some padding to the top and the bottom. Then we get a space between the main heading and the paragraph. So let's see how it looks like. Alright, let me change that h3 to something like h4. h4 is a little bit smaller than h3. Alright, so we have styled that a little bit. So I need to make sure that I change this one to the chat system, because in the main heading we changed our platform name to chat system. So I'm going to replace this one with chat system. Alright, so I think I need to change the color of the main heading to a little bit light blue. Alright, now that's fine. Alright, now we have styled the first section, that means the hero section, a little. Now let's move to the second section and style that too. Alright guys, now let's start styling our second section. So I need to change the background color of the second section a little bit. So I'm going to add some background color to this row tag. So I'm going to say background color. I will put some lighter color, something like light blue, because as you can see here, our hero section image contains the shade of blue and black. So I'm going to select blue. I think these are shades of blue. So I'm going to select blue as the theme color of this application. So I'm going to say this blue color should be more lighter, like this. That'll be fine. And then in this column I need to separate the heading of that section and the content of that section with row tags. So I'm going to separate them like this. Alright, now I'm going to add some padding from the left side. Then we can move that text from the left side to the right side a little bit, so we will have some space between the left side border and the text. So I'm going to add some padding to this row. I'm going to say padding, I need to add some padding from the left side, that means padding from the start. I'm going to give the number as 5. Actually, if I move that to the main row if I move that to the column tag, it will give us the padding for both the heading and the content. So I'm going to make the text size of this heading a little bit larger, like FS1. Alright, and now I'm going to make it a little bit bold. So I'm going to change the text color to primary. It gives us a blue color for our text. Because background color is a shade of blue, so I decided to give the title the blue color. So we need to change our platform name to chat system. And we have some content here. Now I'm going to add this each item as a card. Alright, in this section we see some items here, so I'm going to create a custom card for each item. As you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 items. So if you create one card for each item, imagine that card, the custom card that you're creating, takes about 5 lines of code, and you need to repeat the same code for 5 times in order to add 5 items. Instead of doing that, then if you did that, you get about 25 lines, right? So instead of doing that, instead of writing 25 lines of code, we can create our own components in React, which are they're called reusable components. We can reuse our components that we created in our code without repeating many lines of code. So for example, if the card takes about 5 lines of code, if you have to add 5 items, so you get about 25 lines of code. Instead of doing that, we write 5 lines of code only once, and then we repeat using that component 5 times. Alright, so we're gonna create our own component, that means a card for each item. So let's go ahead and do it. To create our components, we have created a components folder previously when we create pages folder, and I'm going to right click on that folder and click on new file. Then I'm gonna name this file as custom card.jsx. So in that file, I'm going to say this is the only component that I create in this file. So I'm going to say export default function and our component name. I'm going to name it as custom card, and open and close the parentheses and open and close the curly braces. And in here, I'm going to return an HTML code. So we have created our component, and now we can use that component in other files because we export that component to other files. So let me import that component in here. So import custom card from components custom card. So you can use custom card, I mean the component name, without adding curly braces like this, because you define that the component that you're building should be export as a default component. If you remove this default keyword, you cannot actually do this. You need to wrap this component name within curly braces like this. So I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna return this, export this function as the default component of this file like this. So default. Right. Now we have imported that card, and I'm gonna use that card in here. So I'm going to use this card. I will put that as a self-closing tag. Yeah, then I need to add some attributes to that. So there are 3 attributes that I'm going to add to this component. So the first one is title, which is gonna contain the heading for the card, and then the icon, which is gonna be visible in the center of the card. That means card has 3 rows, and the first row contains the title, and the second row contains the icon, and the third row contains the description. So I'm gonna put that like this. And for the title, I'm gonna place this one, and for the description, I'm gonna put this one. And for the icon, I'm going to use an icon available in React Icons library that we've installed previously when we create the project. So that icon is FA circle fill. So we need to import that in here. Import if a circle fill icon from bootstrap, sorry, react icons. Alright, there's a way to find the icons that you want and what's the import statements that we need to write in order to import that icon. There's a way to find it. The way is you need to visit this website, react-icons.github.io/react-icons/search. No, you can omit the search part. Let's visit this one, react-icons.github.io/react-icons. That's the URL. So once you visit this page, you need to search the type of icon that you want to use. So in this case, I want to use check mark. So in here you will see some icons that relates to check keyword. So I'm going to use this one. When you click on this icon, it'll give you this pop-up, and in here you can see the import statements and the component name, right? You can copy these both and use it in the code. So I'm gonna no, I just already imported that, so I'm not gonna copy that. So you can see I already imported that, and I have already used the component in here. Now in the card component, we give 3 attributes: title, icon, and description. So how we can render those values that we pass to those attributes in this component? It's so simple. What you gotta do is you need to put a parameter in here to store all the attributes that you pass to the component and the values of those attributes. So those attributes and values are gonna get stored as a JavaScript object in this parameter. So I'm gonna name it as properties. You can name it as whatever you want. So I'm gonna name it as props, and in here I'm going to use card component created in React Bootstrap framework. So I'm gonna use only that component, and I'm not gonna use card header included in React Bootstrap library. I'm not gonna use that. I'm gonna use my own style for the headers and the content. So I'm gonna add 3 rows because we get 3 attributes from our card when we use that as a component: title, icon, and description. So I'm gonna use 3 rows, and in the first row I'm gonna show the title. So the attribute name that we use in our card component is title. So we can access that attribute by using this parameter. As I told you, this parameter contains a JavaScript object which contains the attribute names and the values as a JavaScript object. So we can access the attributes using props dot attribute name. Like that, we can actually access our icon like this, props dot icon, and we can access our description like we can put our description here by saying props dot description, like this. So when you open up the web page, alright, I've done something wrong. That is, I haven't included this row component in this file. To do that, I need to import row from React Bootstrap. That's it. Now let's view the page. Actually, it's not, content is not visible. I think I've done something wrong in here. We'll see. We can check the error by going into inspect tool. If you go to the console, you will see the error here. The requested module does not provide an export named FA circle fill. Alright, I've done something wrong there. The imports, I need to change that import step a little bit. So in here we import F8 circle fill from React icons. What we need to do, we need to put slash and type FA. That should be fine now. And actually, I think there's another error. Let's see. What is that error? Oh yeah, I see that. The error is, let me close this, and the error is we have imported our card component's name is custom card, but in the place where we use our card does not contain actual card name, so the card name should be custom card. So that was the mistake that I've done. Still, the content is not visible. We'll see this time. Oh, okay. The import name might be incorrect, so let's see. Oh yeah, the import name should be FA, not FA circle fill. Actually, it should be FA check circle. So let's change that. Let's refresh the page. Alright, it's working. So you can see this card here. When we use our card component, which is available in React Bootstrap library, this card component has the white color as the default background. So we can still change the background color of it. I'm not going to change it so we can see that card easily. Yeah, and I'm gonna add some little more styling to that. I'm gonna add some box shadow to the card with this value. So box shadow should not move to any side in the x-axis and also in the y-axis. And then I'm gonna say this should be the amount of blur that we need to get, and this one is the size of the the width of the shadow, and this is the color. So I'm gonna put dark gray. You can actually see that effect, but if I increase this one to about 10 pixels, you will see the difference. So let's not applying that. Oh, I typed this as style attribute incorrectly. So let me change it. Style. You'll see. I'm going to change this to 1 pixel. That's fine. I'm going to make it more. Yeah, like that. I've given some transparency to that color. Alright, now the next thing that we need to do is we need some padding from all sides in that card. So to do that, I'm not gonna say padding S or padding Y. I'm just say padding, apply some padding to that card with the size of 5. That's too much. Let's say 2. Actually, I'm gonna add some padding from the y-axis. It should be 1, and padding from x-axis should be 4. Yeah, that's fine. And now I'm going to edit. I'm going to specify some classes for this tag to make the title a little bit bigger and bolder. So if fw So FW stands for font weight. So you can use bold, bolder, or semi-bold. I will choose semi-bold. We'll see how it looks like. Alright, that's fine. And for this card, one thing that I forgot to add, I need to give some width to this. A fixed width like that. I need to make the size of the title of the card like this, FS4. Alright, that's fine. It's a good size. So I need to get some space between the description and the icon, and also between the title and icon. So I'm going to add some padding from Y. Oh, that's too much. I'm going to make it S3. Alright. But still, actually we are using icons here, but the attribute name is icon. That's why we weren't able to see that icon that we passed to that attribute. So right here we see the icon, and we need to change the size of it. So one thing that we can do is we can add size attribute to that icon, and I will specify 32. I need to make that a little bit bigger, like 43. That's fine, and I need to change the color of it. So the color, I will put some light green color for that. Like that, and then I need to add some styling to this tag. I will say justify content to the center, and I will add some p tag here, and I will say the text of this p tag should be aligned to the center, like that. Alright, that's cool. And also I need to align this title to the center. So I say justify content center. Alright, that's fine. And now I'm going to copy that card that we've created and paste it multiple times to include the information of other items. So I'm gonna make this, place this each attribute in a new line, then it's easy to read. So I'm gonna paste it 4 times. You can duplicate the cursor by selecting a word and pressing Ctrl D, like that. So I'm gonna move this a little bit. Alright, now the thing that we need to do is cut the part of the text and paste it in the correct place. Alright, now I have added all the information for each card. Now let's see how it looks like. Actually, you can see here we're not getting enough space to add these cards horizontally. So one thing that we can do is, you can see when we have some longer text than the card's width, the text looks like it's aligned to the left. So let's make it to the center. So the thing that we need to do is we need to go to custom cards.jsx, and we need to go to custom card component, and in there the row that we used to render the title should have this class name, text center. It'll align the text to the center if the text wraps. Alright, now let's give some gap between those each cards. The thing that we can do is we need to add a class to this row tag, which is containing all the cards that we created, and we need to use this CSS class gap and the size you want. So I'm going to say gap of 4. That's enough. Alright, the issue that we're facing here is we have 5 cards, but they're not aligned in a row. So let's go ahead and do it. The reason for that is, if you see our content, if you see our sections column tag, we say if the screen is extra large or extra large, or if the screen size is medium or large, then it should take only 8 columns of this row to render the content. So we need to make sure that it takes 12 columns for all the screen sizes. So I'm gonna clear out this. So even if the size of the screen is extra small or small, medium, large, extra large, or extra large, it's gonna take 12 columns from this row to render the content. Then we will see those cards are aligned in a row, and the next card, which is not gonna be placed in here because we don't have any space left to render this card in here, then it moves to the next line. To avoid left aligning, we can actually center those cards as we did with our text. The way that we want to do is we need to say justify content center. Then you can see all the cards get aligned to the center horizontally. Now I need to add some space between these cards and our section title. To do that, you know what we have to do already. We need to add some padding to this title or the container which holds our cards. So I'm not gonna add some padding to this title. Let's just add some padding to this container which is holding our cards. So I'm gonna add some padding top. I'm gonna add some padding from top. So the size I'm gonna use is 5 because I need more padding from the top. Alright, that's fine. Alright, now we have done styling the second section of the home page. Now let's move to the third section and start styling that. Alright, in the third section we have this heading and the paragraph. So I'm going to wrap each one with the row tag. So I'm going to wrap the heading with the row tag and also the paragraph. And I'm going to wrap it with a row tag. So I'm going to style this heading a little bit to make sure that it looks like the heading. So I'm going to increase the font size. I will choose 1 as the size of the font, and I'm going to make it semi-bold. No, I just make it as bold. And I'm going to wrap this paragraph with the p tag, so I'll be able to style that separately from the row. Then I'm going to style this one. I want to make the text alignment to the center, and I'm just not gonna center this text, center this heading. I'm gonna keep it left aligned like this, and I need to give some padding from the left side to this class. Then I will get some more space between the left border and the text. So I'm gonna give it padding from start. That's about 5. That's enough. Like this. And actually I'm gonna make this paragraph text alignment to the left. And then we can add some image in here. we can ask ChatGPT to generate an image for us for this section. So I'm going to do that. I just copy the content of this section. So I'm going to visit this website, chat.openai.com. Then I'm going to ask, could you generate an image with the landscape orientation for this section? And then in the bottom of that text, I put the text content of the section, and then I send it, and it will start generating an image for us. Let's wait some time until it generates an image for us. It asks something like this. I go for the first one. I will pick the second option, so I will say second option. Okay, it asked me to stay 11 minutes to reset the limit. Alright, I will wait 11 minutes and I will get back to you once I finish generating the image. Alright guys, it completed generating the image. So here's the image that I'm going to use. Before it gave me the image with the text content, so I just asked it to generate the image without the text, and it gave me this. Once it completes generating the image, you can hover on your image and then you will see the download icon there. When you click on that, it will start downloading. So after that, after it finished downloading, you need to open the downloads folder, or the folder where you have placed that downloaded image. I have opened that in here, and then I'm going to open Visual Studio IDE 2. First open Visual Studio IDE and then open up your folder, and here's the image that I've downloaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop that image in the assets folder so I can use that image in my project. So I'm going to drag and drop that in this directory. Alright, here's the image, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I need to copy the image name with the extension of it. So I'm going to right click this image and click on rename, and then I press Ctrl A to select the name with the extension, and I press Ctrl C to copy that. And once you've done that, we need to get into our home.jsx file. In there, I'm going to edit this section a little bit, so I'm going to remove this. Now I'm just going to add one column, and all the screen sizes, all the breakpoints, this column should take 12 columns. That means the entire width of the row to render the content. So I'm going to say all the screen sizes, it should take 12 columns, and then I'm going to add a new row, and I'm going to divide this row into two parts. The first part contains 6 columns, and the second part takes 6 columns. So the width is divided with the same width. So I'm going to add another column. In the extra small screen sizes, it should take 12 columns, and all the screen sizes with MD and after that should take only 6 columns. So in the larger screen sizes, this row get divided into 2 parts. So in the first part, I'm going to add another div tag. This is the div tag which we use to show the image. So in the second column, I'm going to paste this content, and you can remember I told you before, we cannot add another column within another column. To do that, we need to wrap that column inside with the row tag. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to move that into this row tags. So I'm going to indent them properly. Alright, now it's organized. Now we need to go to this div tag and need to write some inline CSS to show the background image in it. We can set some width and height to this. I'm going to say width should be about 400 pixels and height should be about 300 pixels because this image is landscape oriented. I'm going to add this comma here, and then I'm going to say background image, and I open and close backticks. I put URL here, open and close parentheses, and put $sign and open and close the curly braces. Within that curly braces, I'm gonna use the variable which holds the reference to the image. So I need to import that image here. I'm gonna name it as Teams image, and I want to import that from assets directory, and I have copied the name of the image with the extension, so I'm going to paste that in here. Alright, now we have imported that image, so this is the variable that holds the reference to this image. So when we use that team image variable here, it gets replaced with the path to the image. So I'm gonna use that team's image here, and then I need to say background. This image should cover the entire background of this div tag. So I'm gonna say cover, and I'm going to say no, don't repeat the image if the image is smaller. So I'm going to say no repeat. If you open up our web browser and go to the page, go to the home page, you will see that image is included in here. Now I'm going to align these things a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this extra large breakpoint and medium breakpoint. So I'm going to visit the page. Alright, now we need to align this image to the right a little bit, like to position closer to the text. So I'm going to do that. In here we can say class name. I'm going to add some bootstrap classes. I'm going to say display property should set to flex. Alright, when we set this display property to flex, the flex direction, the default flex direction is row, so we can use this class justify content end to align the image to the right border. You see that here. Alright, now I'm going to change the space this part takes to render the content. So in here I have provided in all the screen sizes it should take 12 columns to render the content. Now I'm gonna make it as 8. It's not enough, so I'm going to say I'm gonna provide 10. That will be enough. We'll see. Alright, that's enough. So the one thing that I can do, I can align that text, this text content vertically to the center. So I'm gonna do that now. To do that, we need to say let's just add some bootstrap classes to this row. I think it should align the items vertically to the center. No, it doesn't work. So I'm going to cut that, and I add display flex property and flex the default direction. If you set the display property to flex, the default direction is row. So to align the items vertically, if the flex direction is row, we need to use align items center. Actually we need to do something like this. We need to set the flex direction to column. Actually, if you set the flex direction to row, this paragraph goes to the right side of this heading, so we won't get the layout that we want. So because of that, I need this paragraph to be under this heading. To do that, we need to set the flex direction to column. Once we've done that, we can actually align the items vertically to the center by using justify content center. If the flex direction is column, we can align the items vertically to the center using this one. If the flex direction is row, we can align the item to the center horizontally using this one, this class. So it does not work. So let me provide some height to this. Alright, now it's fine. And I need some gap between this heading and the paragraph. To do that, I can add some padding to the top. I want to say I need padding from top. The size is about 5. That's too much. I will make it 4. Alright, that's fine. Alright, now we have actually styled the third section. Now let's move to the fourth section.